Thanks, Mind, for having me. As was said, I am presenting this with some of my former colleagues in Dublin City University, Orlagh and Catherine. And it's supposed to be just a kind of a quick fire, useful support for anyone that teaches large classes and does not have the time to process all of that valuable qualitative feedback. So I actually moved my Q&A question to the very front because people can be typing into the chat box some ideas and interests for me. So what quick fire tools do you recommend as large class feedback and analysis? And so this is kind of the crux of mine. Now, the context of what I'm speaking about is hackathons, and it's kind of bounded within social innovation. So without spending too much time on the kind of the context and the theories, what we're trying to do in my area, which is entrepreneurship and innovation, is to bring all citizens, all students, more in line with social innovation. We think there's many problems out there that everybody in the world could handle with a little bit more knowledge of social innovation. So we're developing some pedagogies that help students of all disciplines navigate and try and solve social issues. So a fitting pedagogy would have empathy, would be solution-oriented or challenge-based. And as such, the hackathon and challenge-based learning is an excellent vehicle for driving this social innovation movement across the disciplines. So with that in mind, the hackathon is the perfect method for delivering a lot of these kind of fundamentals. For those of you who've never experienced a hackathon, they're very fun, they're very engaging, they're lightning quick. They are bounded within either kind of a half day or 3 days. They usually have a number of different representatives there. They have multiple stakeholders, mentors, students, judges, and they're intended to be experiential, active, and filled with lots of interaction. And if you've been to any of my former presentations as part of this symposium, you would have heard me explain, what the ins and outs of a hackathon are and how to format them, and some of the complexities inherent when you have them in large class kind of contexts. So I won't dwell on it too much, but I would recommend, if you ever are thinking of developing one, attend one first. You do need to be in the passenger seat before you go into the driving one. Loosely speaking, they all have different formats. Some hackathons are driven towards entrepreneurial goals. Some of them are driven towards this social innovation goal of trying to solve a challenge that is out there, homelessness, a climate-related problem, or a kind of a problem in your locality. But it's good to have a kind of a mnemonic or a way of understanding how the event or the day might go. Personally, our teams run through this idea of solution validation, and we have developed a canvas that brings the students through that process. So at the very start of the event, the students try to understand the problem, they form teams, really try to get to the heart of who this challenge affects, how big this challenge is, etc. Then they develop a solution. We try and steer them away from exclusively all app-based solutions. They can be, community-based or service-based. They can be policy-based, school-based. There's lots of different ways of solving problems. And then the students move to validate it. So they go out into the public, they run around the hall that they're in the hackathon for, they ring their parents, whatever they need to do to try and get some feedback on their idea. And then they pitch it or they present it in some way to the judges. So the hackathon that I am going to speak about is the 2020 DCU Hack for Change. And funnily enough, I wasn't part of this hackathon. So while I would have been involved in some of the DCU Hack for Changes in previous years, now Orlagh and Catherine are in the driving seat, and they run these very large scale events. So there is usually about 700 plus students that attend the social innovation hackathons across 3 days. There is over 100 industry professionals that mentor or judge or speak at these events. They're wildly engaging and busy and stressful for the organizers. And the whole message is to try and solve, kind of innovative problems that require innovative emphasis. In 2022, they were wrapped around the Sustainable Development Goals. So students were given a number of challenges related to the Sustainable Development Goals and then guided through the process to try and come up with solutions. Now, what happened afterwards is we are collecting information on the hackathons, and this is forming part of a large-scale study that we're doing across a number of different universities, exploring the efficacy of the hackathon model in, helping students, guiding students, enthusing students, and getting them to really understand and empathize with social problems. It's a quantitative and a heavily quantitative study. But inherent in this survey and this study are some, one or two qualitative questions within it. Now, I know a lot of people that teach in large classes, and our biggest issue is time. We have great ideas, we throw ourselves into these types of experiential models, we get massive amounts of data and zero time to really analyze it, to sit with it, to reflect on it. It's on to the next thing. So I had asked these students this question, and I did not have the capacity to move through it or even take an hour to see what were my students sending back to me. And that's destructive, because it doesn't mean that we're improving. We're just using our own kind of intuition about whether things worked or all. So in the next 2 minutes, I'm going to very quickly show you what I did to try and comb through this information. It is not pretty. It is not maybe robust from a research perspective, but it gave me some insights very quickly that helped me. So what I did, put it into Excel. We can all grab that and screen it, get rid of the empty boxes from those two qualitative questions. I scanned for patterns, literally just combed it through, and I recognized there was a couple of phrases and a couple of ideas that were coming through quite a lot. So then I did some count ifs and some, functions just to count how many times those specific words or those specific terms were used across the data set. So we had about, nearly 300 qualitative opinion-based responses to this. And you can literally just copy and paste those search terms, type in the words or the term that you're interested in counting, and get how many students used those references or referenced those terms. It's quick. As I said, it's not pretty, not robust, but it does give you some information straight off the bat. The next thing I did, which I really recommend, is conditional formatting. If you've never used it, it is not hard, but it basically colors in the cell of the word or the keyword or the thing that you want to study. So I conditional formatted my qualitative data responses by the words more and the words less. Because anyone that's saying we need more this, we need less this, is a recommendation. And straight away, as you can see that little diagram on the right, you start to comb through responses. Large class teachers care about what they're doing. We read the tweets, we read the responses, we spend our time, we're obsessed with it. And so this makes your time a little bit shorter when you're trying to comb through it. Last two things: save your whole qualitative file as a CSV, upload it to a tool that visually represents it. These tools are getting much better. I used Monkey Learn. The AI on some of these tools in the next year are going to be colossal. They'll do this for us. We just need to know where to pop it in and how to show it. So if you're doing a report on the efficacy of an event, pop this in at the end. It'll take 10 minutes and it works really well. There are other tools, and I know it was mentioned in the chat. I find Mentimeter to be unbelievably useful, particularly when there are guest speakers at events. I ask the students to write a thank you or ask a question via Mentimeter, and then I pop them on screen. And especially when you're asking people to give up their time, and when a large class just, death silence when you say, thank the speaker, they can't if it's a large class. Having like 50 or so comments of thank you, wow, that was amazing, pop up on screen behind the guest speaker is very powerful for them. If you want to be extra kind, pop that into an email or a Word doc format it well and send them to the speaker afterwards. It's another way of using this qualitative information quickly, easily. And so that's it. And just to shout out to a DCU student, his company Opinion X is a great way of stack ranking solutions. So it allows students or people not only to populate responses that they think are important or ideas, but then it gets other people to vote on the ones that they agree with. So you have a ranked scale of what's important. So that's it. Hopefully that was of some use to you. There are way better tools out there probably, but I don't know about them. These are the ones I used.